I'm so indecisive. I think that's why I suck at actually getting these videos out when I say I will, but I'm just gonna chalk it up to my own weird level of perfectionism, and you, viewer, can stuff it. I just got so lost on how to deliver my view with games this year. I feel my passion towards video games as a storytelling and art form has reached an all time high. So when I look down from my beautiful passion mountain at all the online multiplayer, battle royale, loot box, episodic, remastered games that have become a hot spooge nest that has dissolved my world into a giant cesspit of meh cash grabbing disappointment, I feel awkward claiming what I call gaming as to what it really is. Like someone who is into kink being wary of being compared to Christian Grey, I'm a gamer who is wary about being considered a fan of the poop juice this year churned out. As I have learned, being a fan of what Destiny could have been, there are plenty of people in the gamer community who feel that being a true fan to your IP means accepting what the devs put out, whether it is good, bad, or developer holocaust inducing shit. Too many times in groups, people will voice very well back grievances of games with phenomenal potential on how they could be much better than they actually are, only for, to quote the great Yahtzee Croshaw, uncritical butthole relishing close relative molesters to chime in stating that if they don't like it, to just stop playing or to just shut up and enjoy the game. The fuck is this? The fucking Soviet Union? Am I needing to prepare for them to take away my exotics from competitive play until everyone can have one, or only be able to log in after I've sold out my family and worked 8 hours in a fucking labor camp? Am I being dramatic? Kinda. Video games have undergone more changes in the last 2 generations than the rest of gaming times. But instead on exploiting those changes for great innovative fun, the money hoarders of the industry are content falling on their tried and true bullshit to steadily keep their money rockets flying. Y'all realize that Zelda Breath of the Wild was just Zelda Ubisoft Edition, right? And you guys tongue bathe that thing like my dog does me when I come out of the kitchen with no pants and a peanut butter jar. There's more original content in day one release of Anthem, and we as gamers shit all over that. Seriously though, so many games came out this year with near perfect scores, even though when looked at through a critical eye, they were so loaded with bugs, gameplay issues, and graphical weak spots that they still could have been compared to the opening week of Anthem. Yeah, EA, BioWare, you slammed my dick with that hype train betrayal so hard that I'm going to be piddling on you the most. With the biggest wallet and the best storytellers in video games, what was released should have you all forced into labor camps for committing the crime of video game heresy. So instead of the 20 other videos I said I was going to create, I'm just going to go into my library and pull out a few games from this year and give harsh critical opinion of them. Because we learn through criticism, but while also highlighting the areas that the game got right. So this year, gaming was going stage 4 with that cancer known as Battle Royale. PUBG, Fortnite, H1Z1, Black Ops, everything got slapped with some form of Battle Royale content. The new hype, the empty, easy to program, quick churn out garbage that has no sustenance and set as another loot box loaded cash grab for companies to cough out and then bathe in the money. So imagine my disappointment whenever a game I rate as one of the best shooters of all time that I pitch to everyone any chance that I get, whose release date was a sad execution of being stuck between 2 shooter powerhouses of the generation. Look how they massacred my boy. Released a fucking battle royale game in its universe. I'm talking about the Titanfall universe-based Apex Legends. Titanfall 2 was a masterpiece of a game. Top-notch story with original mechanics that don't feel like gimmicks. Wall running and double jumping in environments that require movement mastery to outmaneuver your opponents and reach secrets, and weapons that were an absolute joy to use. Its multiplayer was nothing to shit on either. Creating playlists to search multiple game modes, unlockable content based on your skill and progression with your weapon or titan, and a balance that sees you playing against people with all different titans and loadouts where you can win based on your skill, not with a broken loadout. Destiny. But when EA bought Respawn Entertainment, Titanfall's fans felt like a little boy whose drunk father had come home from getting cigarettes 12 years ago, drunk as hell, and searching for a piggy bank and Christmas money. We knew what was coming. Fans of Respawn had seen how EA would snatch an up-and-coming company and squeeze them till their last penny dripped out. None of us wanted to see that happen, especially after the IP's poor treatment by EA when they were simply the publisher. But to see them shamed with a battle royale that had little to nothing to do with the actual content was simply sad. It makes fans of the series proper nervous as to what EA will do with the IP in the future. But bruh, how does it hold up as a battle royale shooter? That's like asking how Rudolf Hess held up as a Nazi. Who fucking cares he was still a Nazi? And this is still a battle royale game. And my hatred isn't based on lack of skill. I played 3 games to get this footage, and my team won one of them with myself getting 7 kills. These games are a cheap thrill that milks the wallets of those of you with disposable incomes and creates a level of self-righteous hierarchy simply based on how you look. And that isn't even acquired based on your skill, like cosmetics from older video games. Battle royales are a herpy on the gaming world, and one made from my favorite shooter is simply salt on the wound. Kingdom Hearts 3 was one of the first huge releases of the year and debatably one with the most fan hype. The last numbered entry had come out in 2005, just over 13 years before this one. And after some iffy side stories and a few great ones, Kingdom Hearts 3 came out and stole the show. It looked great and it played the same as Kingdom Hearts 2, while also having seamlessly integrated features from the previous side titles as well, such as flow motion from Dream Drop Distance and shot lock commands from Birth by Sleep. However, the deeper you got into the game, the more you realized something was off. Was it the absence of Final Fantasy characters, the ride gimmick that felt like Disney World advertising, or maybe the fact that the game was just too goddamn easy? Seriously though, I've beaten every single Kingdom Hearts game except for Recoded on at least Proud, if not Critical, and for the first time, I felt zero challenge. I bought the Moogle coin, respawn if you die for those who haven't played the game, first chance I got, and held on to it for the entire game. That combined with what felt like a total cop-out of an ending, seriously, if you take away the meaning of death and allow everyone to live an infinite cycle of rebirth, no one should take death seriously, had me excited for the start, iffy by the middle, and straight up not having a good time by the end. After building up Xehanort as this long game playing villain whose master plan had been set up for years, for him to give it up and bow out at the final moment broke his character completely. Kingdom Hearts has always beat the power of friendship drum pretty damn hard, but to get a script flip like that, where the bad guy decides to stop being evil just because his bestie showed up, it's not the power of friendship, but the power of a good hard dicking. This game started strong, but dragged itself through the mud by the end. And no, releasing a critical mode after launch that is more reminiscent of Dark Souls difficulty does not compensate for the utter lack of difficulty at launch. I didn't make a best and worst of 2019, even though I said I would, but if I did, this game would be at the top of the worst. Wolfenstein Youngblood, man. I find this game more than slightly ironic. This game seems to be that grandchild of some great game that thinks just because it has the Wolfenstein title, it's going to get by on a free ride. Just like how the playable characters act like they're tough shit, just because they're the children of B.J. Blazkowicz, the immortal hero of the entire series, which... by the way, why the fuck did we not play as him? Seriously, he's been the main character of the entire series for almost 30 years, and now we decide to switch it up? But it's obvious why they made the switch, because this game reeks of SJW. Plenty of games out there manage to weave diversity into their stories without managing to shove it down their throat, but this one wants to do just that, and then pull it out and rub it all over your face. That said, the fact that the main characters are women isn't even a bad thing. It's the writing and setup that makes them absolutely unbearable. Slap a dick between both their legs and they're still unbelievably fucking annoying. From their constant comparison to their comic book heroes, the in-combat dialogue between the two, those stupid elevator security camera cutscenes, seriously, I wanted to take my character into the plaza, cook a grenade, and hope for story canon permadeath. Sadly, the most interesting part of the story was when it was dropped that BJ had killed Hitler. Really? The things that player wanted to do most in a Nazi shooter is kill Hitler, and they threw it into a mention in a cutscene. A cutscene! They could have made this into a great game, where BJ fights alongside his daughters in a quest to assassinate Hitler, fighting through Europe, growing from naive girls into strong women, learning about the horrors of Nazi Europe, and growing more to appreciate their freedom in America. But no. We're stuck with a game with zero character development and zero interesting plot points. I'm genuinely shocked this game even went past planning. Someone at that meeting had to be sitting in the corner wondering what the fuck they were thinking about. Change linearity to an open world. Okay,
Not a bad idea. Add an armor system that requires the player to change weapons depending on the enemy. Okay, might break the game's flow, but we'll see. Make it to where the enemies respawn even if you only cross 2 inches into a new area. Okay, this is getting fucking ridiculous. Ridiculous? Wait till you hear about we're making it co-op and introducing a live system that hasn't made sense to gaming in 3 generations of consoles. Bob, pass the fucking ether.
This game should be wiped from existence. I seriously hate this game, and I hate what they did with one of the most original shooters of this generation. Do not play this game. So, on to something good. This year, the gaming studio known as Spiders, known for making the phenomenally mediocre Technomancer and Bound by Flame, released a gem known as Greedfall. If you were a fan of BioWare back when they made good games and weren't corporate whores, you will love this game. Set in a colonial era type world, you play as the ambassador to a nation's presence on a newly discovered island and must play the political game between the 2 other nations who are warring with each other and the locals, while at the same time attempting to discover a cure for a sickness known as the Malachor. There are multiple other factions with which you monitor your standing and companions with deep stories for you to become involved with. It is a strong leveling system with base traits from 3 starting classes, but the ability to branch your playstyle as you go and combine these classes into something new. Its combat allows for you to attack as you please, while also allowing to pause to think through your next move, but not in an annoying way like Dragon Age does. Swords, blunts, firearms, and magic are all satisfying to use, while none feel overpowered. So, combat style is pure preference. This is what we have been wanting BioWare to make for an exceptionally long time. These types of deep story-driven RPGs are nearly absent from gaming as a whole these days. I was glued to what was going to happen next the entire time, and the ending did not disappoint. I cannot wait to see what Spider puts out next. This is in no way a perfect game, but for a small studio like theirs to take BioWare's roadmap and make a game significantly better than anything they've made recently, Anthem, shows dedication to a game and a story and not to profit, which in my opinion are the games that deserve your money. Seriously, if you like story-driven deep world RPGs, go buy this game. It's great. So, have you ever gone to see a movie, and it's a good movie? Great plot, effects, music, but one thing about it stands out the whole time and ruins your experience, whether it be an actor's nose, or a laugh, or the way they pronounce a word. That was my experience with Borderlands 3. I was so let down with how unpolished this game was at release, but I ignored that and played it anyway. This game was seriously great otherwise. It looked new while keeping the Borderlands look. The humor was there. The gunplay was awesome. The weapons secondary modes was a great addition. Bosses needed some work to be a thoughtful challenge and not just bullet-soaking thickies, but otherwise it was great. However, this game is wearing a lot of makeup. Certain missions had game-breaking glitches that have kept players from completing them, such as the final ramp not raising and Get Quick Slick, or the final creature glitching through the floor in the final round of the Animal Circle of Slaughter. The inventory screen is so buggy that sometimes weapon images won't load, and when they do, they don't always show the actual item you're looking at. The inventory sort is batshit, and just moving from menu to menu is a chore. And with abilities being able to be modified mid-fight, like the Siren having the ability to change the elements of her special, and in cases, her weapons by modding her skill tree, a fast menu is essential in this game. My biggest complaint about all this, though, is that at writing, it has been 6 months since this game came out, and nothing has fixed these issues. In the era of post-release patches, which I seriously hate, but if you're a dev and your game is broken, when in Rome, this shit should have been fixed, if not in the first week, but in the first month. But the fact that the first DLC has already come for this game and Gearbox hasn't fixed these issues screams bad business. And it's seriously disappointing. Gearbox is showing early symptoms of AAA greed, and I pray it's fixed before it gets worse. Everyone has their guilty pleasure game. That game that they play even though they know it's not great, but they play it anyway. You'll put it down and you'll say you'll never play it again, but at the end of the day, you're right back at it. The Destiny series is my guilty pleasure. I seriously purchased my PS4 so I could play it with friends. I love the Deep Grimoire, and I enjoy the raids more than anything. However, the relationship between Bungie and its fans is an abusive one. Destiny 1 wasn't worth the $60 price tag until after the last DLC, Rise of Iron, came out. By that point, Day 1 fans had put around $200 into the game. Excuses were made about the strain of creating a new IP, but at least Bungie had a now refined product that they could make even better with the sequel. Come 2017, no, they didn't. The story of Destiny 2's release schedule followed an eerily close one to that of Destiny 1 in its hollow-based game, followed by 2 small, insignificant DLCs, and then one big one unveiling what the game should have been at the start. The huge deal this time around was the second large DLC, Shadowkeep. It was Destiny's first run without publisher Activision holding the leash. It was a chance for Bungie to show that they weren't the true guilty party with their bad practices and pin it all on Activision. But instead, in my humble opinion, they showed their true colors. This generation, as I'll speak on later, is plagued by the filthy nostalgia dollar. And Shadowkeep is Destiny 2's nostalgia bid to the D1 hardcores who have been dissing D2's appeasement to the casuals since day one. There was no real new enemy, just battles against versions of previous bosses you fought in the original game, like Fogoth, Tanyx, and Crota. And unlike Mars, which brought an all-new map, the moon map was nearly identical to the original from D1, with minor changes and additions. While seasonal events are better, it also brought in battle passes to bleed more money from a series that they could do so much more with, but they won't. Not unless they could put a price tag on it. Y'all think this shit wasn't already planned up in 2017 when this game dropped? Destiny is now the smartphone of video games. They know what they're going to put out in a few years, but until they build up to it with a fat price tag, you won't get it. This is an example of how gaming is no longer there to tell a story or to entertain, but to turn a profit. And until we as fans stop giving in, it'll keep happening and it'll keep getting worse. Mark my words right here. Destiny 3 will follow the exact same path. And when it does, are we going to buy it? Yeah, we probably will. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one, but if you call an annual release of a Call of Duty game a good game, you need to redefine good. Good for a Call of Duty game, though? Yeah, I'll take that. It's just like they called Resident Evil 7 good, but in the end, it was just Outlast with a bigger budget, and it wasn't a shit show like its previous game. Y'all ready for an illusion buster? Release shit for a while. Anything slightly decent released after, it's gonna look like gold. This started with post-release patches, Destiny, No Man's Sky, even Anthem is trying it. People will stop viewing a game as a standalone and simply compare it to its shitty predecessors. Again, us as gamers failing to realize this will cause us to allow this shitty and, in my opinion, planned practice to continue. Also, it's a reboot, and reboots are dumb and unoriginal and just milking the nostalgia dollar. Modern Warfare was good, but not this parting the waters gifts from the shooter's god that everyone's making it out to be. And from a campaign and multiplayer standpoint, I still hold Titanfall 2 over it. Hands down, any day. Disappointment normally frustrates and in bad cases makes me angry. Anthem! Oh my fucking god! But in rare occasions, it makes me sad. None such so than the case of the Outer Worlds. Since Elder Scrolls V, Bethesda has been in a downward spiral. As of recently, another company stuck in the money-sucking practices, destroying once good companies. Its Creation Club to pull money from modders on the PC, its 2 MMOs with microtransactions galore, and games like Rage 2 that put those microtransactions in a single-player game are just a few examples. Many faces look to Obsidian to pick up the torch. Obsidian made the original Fallout games, and arguably the best in the series, Fallout New Vegas. So when Obsidian announced Outer Worlds, a new open-world RPG, people squealed with excitement. I bought it days after it came out, and I fell in love with it. The fun characters, the open dialogue, the beautiful diverse worlds, the play on our corporate culture, the way they... Wait, what, was that it? That was the end? Are you serious? Okay, well, let me go play some side quests or endgame content. Oh, there isn't any left. Okay. The fuck is this? This game should have been much more. It was pretty, it was polished, it was deep, but on the inside, it was empty. It's like getting an expensive cake at a restaurant. Looks pretty and is made with great ingredients, but it's gone too quick and just leaves you wanting more. When for the same price, you can go to the supermarket and buy a whole cake. It may not be as pretty, but it's so much more for what you put in. If Obsidian had just put in a few more missions, more endgame and side content, heavier emphasis on the factions, maybe, just maybe, this game would have capped my best list. This is not a bad game, not in the slightest. It just left me wanting more. Speaking of cap my best list, this is probably the most controversial entry in this video. Since the tragic release of a stellar yet incomplete Metal Gear Solid 5 and the cancellation of Silent Hills following Hideo Kojima's highly publicized departure from Konami, everyone knew his next release would be something to watch. Since the first trailer drop up until its release, no one truly understood what Death Stranding was. Rain that makes people age, wearing a baby, invisible ghosts, Nick and Norma Reedus. What was released was more than just a game, but a statement of social culture and the power of unity. People dig at it because it looks like a walking simulator, and, well, to me, people who say that look like retards, but I'm not about to give them my tax dollars to go to a state school. I'm still writing a full-fledged review, so I'll keep most for that, but I think this is Game of the Year, if not decade. Following the world after a cataclysmic event that merged the worlds of the living and the dead, we follow Sam as he goes across America, connecting outposts and shelters into a network to help bring the world together, while using his own condition and a BB or bridge baby to detect and avoid BTs, beach things, ghostly apparitions of the dead. You start making small deliveries on foot, using the controls to maintain your balance depending on your load. As you build your world, you unlock better equipment and vehicles, along with buildings to place in the environment to help you along. From ladders and ropes to bridges and zip lines, jennies and shelters. These structures are shared in the worlds of other players and their structures in yours. This helps bring the feeling of helping each other out more toward a common goal, with likes being given each time something you built is used. Logging in to see hundreds of them from people you help feels great. Not only is the gameplay original, but the acting and story are phenomenal. Each character has simple yet meaningful names, and their backstories are strong and moving. I can't remember the last time a game made me want to cry, but a certain scene in the chapter Mama did just that. I'm still banging out little things to platinum this game, and I will definitely want to replay it. If you're down for a fresh take on how to do the action-adventure game, this is your golden ticket to new ideas. Even though it was one of the first games to come out this year, I wanted to save it for last because a lot of people have forgotten about it. But I want this to sit at the forefront of everybody's minds. I want everyone to remember this game. This game is the personification of what is modern gaming. The overhype, poor use of a studio's potential, lack of substance, distancing from the fans, false promises, beautiful worlds of empty. This game should have been phenomenal. Even with the looter-shooter concept, BioWare should have been able to create a deep, rich, atmospheric world with as much wow and wonder as their previous series. Instead, it feels like a redhead cast out, run home to bank on their dead, long-lost father's past glories. Story felt forced and uninspired. Character tropes felt like they existed because they were required by formula. There were less than 30 weapons at launch, and they all looked the same. Even masterwork and legendary weapons were the same as their lower rarity counterparts, just with buffs and a skin change. The difficulty was busted, being easier to churn out lower difficulty missions to result in more loot than had you pushed through the higher difficulties. Enemies would just appear out of thin air, and you would get attacked by enemies and not know where they were, partly due to poor enemy spawn placement, and partly due to way too many effects. Yes, there is such a thing. This game had two things going for it. Its flight which straight up had you feeling like Iron Man. And while its cooldown had many bitching, I felt like it helped balance its use. And 2, its combat. When done right, it felt good. And great when you would roll up on an enemy group, launch into the air, blast a flame mortar, then melee into the center, detonate an entire group of enemies that would have taken much longer to shoot. It was obvious that builds were possible to piggyback off the different javelin skills, but this was never really implemented, and it was a completely missed opportunity. But the lack of enemy diversity also kept this from being useful. By the end of the campaign, you realize that the phrase lack of is what defined this game. Lack of story, lack of enemies, lack of weapons, lack of game modes, lack of endgame, lack of fucks to give. I am hurt because this game oozes potential, but feels half-baked all the way through. Some blame EA, others BioWare, I blame both. I forget that the teams that brought us Knights of the Old Republic and Mass Effect don't work at BioWare anymore. They're only the old company we love and name, and it would be easier for us to just take them behind the shed and put both barrels in their eyes by not buying their new Dragon Age game they're working on. But like I said before, they are working on a rework of the entire game right now, much like No Man's Sky did. However, I think it's too little too late. It probably won't come out before the drop of the next console, and the player base is so small, I just don't see many caring. Maybe if they released a free copy on the next generation to people who had it on this generation, but it is a EA game, and that's never gonna fucking happen. And those are my 10 games of 2019 I feel need to be talked about. Now, I know it's partway through 2020 already, and this is way late, but this is also kind of my attempt at starting big on my dream of being a game critic. And last year felt like a flop in the way of games. As this year sees delay after delay when it comes to big releases, hopefully this means companies are trying to ensure release of a polished product over a half-baked game. But who knows? My cynical side thinks companies are trying to perfect their games before the 9th generation starts at the end of the year, so that way they end the 8th with us thinking they give a shit. Or maybe they are noticing the bad practices. Modern Warfare has free updates. Fallen Order has not a single microtransaction for an EA game. That's pretty impressive. Ubisoft has delayed Watch Dogs Legion and their next Ash Creed to rework their formulas, and Fallout 76 just added NPCs. I hope this is gaming coming out of a slump. I hope this will be a new golden age of gaming that will bring new and immersive experiences into our lives with stories and worlds and lore to get lost in. But for that to happen, though, something else has to give, and it's why I still insisted on finishing this project. For this moment right here, we, the gamer, have to stop being uncritical consumers. We must stop giving into microtransactions and yearly releases. We must stop fawning over remakes and remasters and demand of the industry to put that creative work towards something original. At the end of the day, we hold the power, and it is on us not to give our money to companies that want our money more than our actual desire to enjoy their game. And that's it for me. I hope y'all like, share, subscribe. I am still planning on making more videos like this. Hopefully they'll be put out on a more regular basis. I finally migrated all of my footage from my PlayStation to my PC, so it'll probably be a little easier for me to work on stuff like this. If you have any complaints, disagreements, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. Maybe I'll talk about them later on. Otherwise, y'all have a good one. I'm Taylor Repke, a.k.a. Necron NoobTube, and I will catch you later.